Hey, hello. Welcome to Penetrate Radio, episode 1. This is a podcast all about shadow alchemy and existential kink. I am your host, Lucy Baldwin, and I'm here today with my compadres, Laila Matthews, Dani Granaroli, and Holly Kiefer. We are each going to give a quick introduction of ourselves here right now, and then we're going to get into talking about shadow alchemy and existential kink and what this podcast is all about. Um, Laila, would you care to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to be brief. Okay. So I got here. If I had to say how I got here, is that I fell in love with the work of Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott. And I wanted to spread the good news of existential kink with everyone because I was like, this is the missing piece. This is like a truth that I had always known was true. But Carolyn put it into words in a book that like resonated that truth so hard. And I was like, this is true for everyone and everyone needs to feel this resonance. So anyway, I was going to just rip Carolyn's work off and start coaching people and teaching existential kink. But then I worked for her, with her, and through her business for many years, bringing existential kink to the people. And that desire to spread the good news has been with me ever since I first heard it. And that's why I'm here today. And that's what I've been occupying a good amount of my time doing for the last 5 years now, working with many, many, many people in digesting this work and uncovering the shadow. And I would say that by way of introduction, I would just say that my special flair is for just really, really tenderly loving and having compassion for the difficult to love parts of humanity and people's selves. So I'm Laila Matthews, and that's how I got to be here.
And we are so glad to have you. Thank you. Dani.
Oof, so juicy. So yeah, I got here also through Carolyn Elliott and her book Existential Kink, in a very magical way. I don't know exactly how Carolyn came into my life and her book came into my life, but when I read that book, it was literally world changing. Like my reality shifted in reading that book. And I had so many aha moments, so many ways of getting to like reframe my existence and my reality that it was mind blowing. And I continued to go through her mystery school, learn from all of you, and get to also work with you. And just, I love going deeper and deeper. I have gone over this book many times and these practices, and it is just, there is such a depth to this work that will continue to evolve, and it evolves for me over and over. And that's why I love being here and talking about that. I have a background in bodywork and somatics, and I absolutely love this like intersection of the body and the mind and the way that we get to not only just like be in the soft, fluffy, comfortable, warm places, but really deepen and expand into those edges that are uncomfortable, and how much grace and growth and beauty comes from that, the taboo and the unloved and the exiled parts of us. So that's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you so much, Dani. And Holly.
I got here by Googling how to be a witch on the internet, and that brought me to Carolyn Elliott's work. And um, holding and how to be a witch on the internet is holding that energy in yourself. And existential kink is also so much about holding that energy in yourself. And by holding that in myself, I'm able to hold other people with so much more delight and care and love. And I also trained as an EK coach at the same time that I was going to grad school for clinical social work. So I got to have these two wildly different but also beautifully similar approaches, like really weave into each other, because social work is strengths based, and when you're in EK, you see everything as strength. in some form. So it's been a wild ride. I've worked with Carolyn in Sleepover Mystery School for a few years now, and it's just been an absolute joy to get to really embody a piece of myself that I might not have gotten to without having this perspective brought to me. Yeah, also have a history of massage, yoga, and somatics, and the embodied quality of this work is really what makes it land for me in a way that so many other approaches like would come in and be like, oh yeah, that's cool, and then they'd skitter off. But this one has stayed because it's something that you can hold in your tissues.
Yes. Yeah. And I should probably mention we actually all worked together um, in putting on a mystery school with Carolyn. And
I
Layla
was
and I
going to
have
say, actually, we have all worked. This is a crew of the four of us who did a lot of actually energetic, heavy lifting, holding groups of people coming through a deep shadow work portal. And all
for
of
a
us,
few
yeah,
years.
for
Yeah,
several years, and all of us do that variously and separately, individually in our own work. And yeah, I think anyway, I'm just happy to be here with you girls.
Yeah. And I would like to share that for me, I was into heavy into medicine work and psychedelic medicine work when I came across Carolyn's work. And this was before she wrote the book. This was when people were starting to see the dangers of spiritual bypass. See, this whole idea of leaning into those things rather than shying away from them and giving them space and honoring our truths. And it just felt so true with a capital T for me. And I actually this was many years ago, I went to a retreat and met Holly there, and then went to another retreat and met Layla there. And it's just crazy how everything has sort of woven together over the years. And that we've all been just pretty obsessed with this work. All of us have taken many people through, really intense and deep experiences with existential kink and the surrounding philosophies and things that we've been teaching. And we've coached in a lot of like group containers and just been, so many hours and hours we've spent on the mat with people, taking them through these processes, helping them with misconceptions and things where people have been stuck and places where people have sort of struggled with this. So we have so much to share. And that's really what this podcast is going to be about, because we all know there's so many people out there who this speaks to you. This work speaks to you in a way and it has the ability to completely change and transform and do amazing things for your life. And also, we want to help with some of the things that people struggle with, and we want to share what we know.
Yeah. So I just wanted to chime in and just kind of say, okay, I definitely found existential kink because I was very tired of some of the very same kind of spiritual bypass, love and light, it's only good. Like I had spent many years actually in nonviolent activist spaces, working with people who were, just very conscious about every kind of infraction that could be made from one person to another, and sometimes often rightfully so, but sometimes to a huge degree. Yeah, well, I'll just say it this way: whether you agree or disagree with the stance of nonviolence, it casts a large shadow, because when you are completely committed to nonviolence, then you're only occupying one side of the non-violence violence polarity in reality, and nature abhors a vacuum. So there's, we noticed that anyway, I had spent a lot of time there, and I was really excited about this like backdoor kinky embrace of the shadow, embrace of the naughty, embrace of the part that wants to harm and kill. Because seems to me that if we're always putting the desire to harm and kill onto other people elsewhere, we're likely to be harmed or killed. You know what I mean? Like we don't escape from the cycle by disowning it and putting it somewhere else. Anyway, I'm trying to get to the meat of it here. existential kink and shadow work and the love of the shadow and the love of the disowned and the parts of us that want to, do the wrong thing, the bad thing, the, not good thing, was like an elixir, a healing elixir to me. And it allowed me to finally, and I hope that maybe you have started to taste this also, dear listener, and I think that Holly, Dani, and Lucy will agree with me with the cornball thing that I'm about to say, is that this focus on the shadow allowed me to backdoor, like naughty, let in the truth that what I am loves me, loves life, loves everything, and has just nothing but total awe and engagement and like enrapturement with me and everything that happens in my life. And that's very much like feeling just universal and total love. But when people were talking about it in this like feathery way, I was like, ugh, cotton candy. I can't eat cotton candy for every meal. Sometimes I like cigarettes. Sometimes I like the bad things too, but like, can I love those as well? And existential kink really, through the course of, the years that I've worked with it now, has steered me on a clear path of like, we can love it all. And at the same time, if we reduce existential kink to there's always a part of me that loves everything, and if we reduce shadow work to all parts of us are lovable and good, and why should we ever do anything about them to change them, and we just go into total acceptance of shadow, then we're lost. We also get lost, and it gets flattened. What I'm trying to say is it gets flattened in the same way that it got flattened when we were eating cotton candy, love and light. So one of the things that I just really want to keep doing here on this podcast, or, bring in, is staying with the truth that, shadow work is about universal, uncompromising, total approval and love. And we have to be very careful when we're wielding that power to wield it responsibly. Do you guys know what I'm alluding to?
Yeah, totally. I don't know if this word feels right for you, Laila, but I'm thinking of the word like apathy. And I've thought about like before I had EK, those parts that I was exiling or shaming or pretending didn't exist within me would send me into these like freeze states. And it takes so much energy to suppress those parts of yourself. And I think for me, when I went into EK, and I think this is very common for a lot of us, is we're so used to being cerebral, digesting things intellectually. At the first place I went was there. And I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to tell myself this is true and believe it. And that is a place that I think I wanted to talk, and we have in the past talked about one of the caution signs around this work is it can't just be intellectual, because then you are bypassing yourself, right? And you're falling into that same sense of really repression and apathy if you're like, oh, well, everything is perfect right now, so that means that I don't have to have any opinions about anything going on in the world or take any action that feels like truly beautifully aligned for me and makes me feel alive in this life. So I think, all of you can agree with me that that is the part of like somatically getting it into your tissues and truly, honestly having the experience of it that makes this work so profound.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think, I guess I'm just trying to bring up the fact that on a very high level, shadow work, to me, in my opinion, in my experience, shadow work brought me where love and light could not.
Yes, agreed.
And I think many of the people listening to this podcast will relate, having read Existential Kink and tasted some of the like expansion and brightening and like hopefulness and truth, honestly, like Lucy was saying, capital T truth, that we are really here to enjoy. We're really here to enjoy and be moved. And I think that's maybe that's like part of the nuance here, is that when we talk about like love and like enjoyment and embrace and getting off and all of that. I think what we really mean is we are deeply touched and naturally express what is really true for us. And it's important to use the tool to always go to the deeper and deeper and deeper truth, not like you were saying, Dani, stay up in the like, well, I pushed the puzzle pieces around and I'm saying the right things, but never sink into like a really concrete example of this that I know from my many experiences coaching people is, let's say somebody has a don't like situation that they are wanting to get off on. Is this all right? This is what we're supposed to be talking about, Lucy. Let's say that somebody has a don't like situation that they're wanting to get off on and they're trying to find their yes to that situation. That's classic. That's classic getting off on it, finding the joy in it, finding the approval in it, finding the things that we can love, enjoying the sensations of having that happen to us. And also sometimes it's important to equally give truth and acknowledgement and approval and like love for the part of us that's like, fuck this, absolutely not, no. Because that's also a somatic experience that we have that can be approved of and loved and accepted instead of being in a constant fight of either I'm a yes or I'm a no. And I have to then like turn the yes and the no into enemies within me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, the number one red flag for me is when people are trying to convince themselves that they like something. That's not what it's about. We're
Well
not
said.
trying to convince ourselves. That's like a thinking in circles trap.
Yeah, what I find really helpful for people is ask if there's a part of you. See if it's there. Like, and it's being more in conversation and curiosity and love than being like, you have to do this, because that kind of domination is what gets us into trouble in the first place.
Yeah, I just know that when we feel the feelings, I think that, what do I want to say? Finding the part is wonderful. And I've had, great experience with helping people find the part. But sometimes what I think EK really comes down to in a basic walking meditation kind of way that I find myself using it these days is I notice to myself like, wow, I'm having a real feeling come up right now. I have a teenager, I have a baby, I have a 7-year-old. Feelings are coming up. I have a husband, I have a life, I have people. You all know, you can all relate. But like a feeling is coming up. And when I notice that it moves through the most gracefully and causes the least friction and reveals the most truth is when I can like feel what it actually really is and just express myself from the place of what it actually is instead of being afraid of the sensation, being afraid of the feeling, squashing it down, putting it behind me, and then putting on some other mask in front, and then trying to live life from that thing. That to me is like, but I have to have the courage. I have to have the courage to feel what I'm actually feeling. That's the like, to me, EK part where the love and approval and the willingness to have the experience that I'm having guides me home in the moment,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say the thing that the book is such a gift from it is the practice, right? Because it took me years to get to that place. It's still there are times that I'm not there, right? So actually having a specific, here's my time, these are my training wheels over and over and over again is so helpful. Even now, today, I will sit down and be like, all right, I'm doing a formal EK session right now. Most of the time I'm not, like you were saying, for you now, it's a walking meditation. It's just become ingrained in you to have this open, just conversation and feeling and honesty of experience.
Listen, I mean, sometimes, I just want to be really honest. because I think it's important to be so. Sometimes I'm not capable of being honest. Sometimes I'm not capable of being brave like that. Sometimes I'm not. And I also have to love myself in the truth that I feel the need to conceal my truth sometimes, or I feel the need to do what needs to be done. And I just like, none of that has to become like, you're doing it wrong. Like, I guess the EK, like, oh man, the EK thing that like really, I don't know, the thing, like, there's no doing it wrong. There isn't a doing it wrong. There isn't a lingering, you made the wrong choice, did the wrong thing, are the wrong thing, have the wrong thing, said the wrong thing. There's just sensations that I can be like, whoa, I can't believe I just said that to that person. Or, oh my God, I can't believe I'm such a coward and I can't even say the truth right now. Sensation, and like the willingness to feel that without being like,
Yeah, totally.
do you know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. I feel like that's what I was getting towards. And I love that you were like, oh, wait, actually, as I'm saying, sometimes I'm doing it wrong. That is the EK, right? Is you're still in, at this moment, the energy of EK of like, oh, right. And doing it wrong is also, I'm going to use the word perfect, even though we all know that we don't mean perfect in some like, I don't know, clerical.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Endurable. Go ahead.
Dani, I'm wondering if you'd be willing, just for our dear listeners, to give a very quick sort of overview of what it looks like for you to sit down and do existential kink practice.
Yeah, totally. Sure. The first thing that I will say, you really can't forget, don't miss. And it took me so many months to actually recognize how potent this first step is. It is really one of the most important steps, is the embodiment period. The Carolyn talks about like relax, take a bath. She gives a lot of examples. So, you know, whether that's like taking a bath, et cetera, et cetera. For me, it's very often like getting comfortable. A lot of the time I'm laying down so my body feels supported, and I go through a body scan of just feeling into and relaxing as much as I can my body. Because that's where the magic happens. You have to be able to feel the sensations in your body to do this work on this deeper level, to like get the real juice of it. So that is the first step, absolutely the most important step in my opinion. And then I will go into, you know, whatever topic I'm working on. You know, okay, I'll be honest. Actually, there's something really beautiful that came up last night for me where I was talking with, is it okay if I share the story? Yeah, I was talking with an ex and I realized how beautiful our conversation was, that he had forgiven me, but there were some aspects of our relationship that I had not forgiven myself for. And so getting to go into an EK session where I felt into first the part of me that absolutely, like Laila was saying, starting with my no. I didn't have approval at that point for forgiveness, for, you know, the part of me that was controlling and shitty. So instead, I really let myself sink into and feel the sensations in my body of how much I was a no about accepting that part of myself, how much I was mad, angry, honestly in disgust, really, for that part of myself. And not always does it become erotic, but it became very erotic for me, where I realized like, oh, there is this dominating part of me that loves being not only critical, but actually derogatory and like diminishing myself. So it started as like, oh, I have no approval for that. I got to feel those sensations in my body, and that allowed me to feel into the part that actually really enjoys beating the shit out of myself. And again, like I've done this for many years. So it might be the right topic. And it's like, the levels just hit for you and you go to these levels like that. But I will tell you, for so long, it was literally, I was just saying the sentences over and over. I found the sentences in the book really helpful. But the more you can get creative with it and let it evolve, you're just following sensation in your body. What gives you that ping and that might be erotic charge somewhere in your body. It might just be a building sensation. But the idea is there's a building sensation somewhere in your body that maybe peaks. When it's a perfect session, you follow it until there's some sort of peak and catharsis of some sort, which might be erotic, which might be a laugh, it might be a cry, it might be any emotion. And that also took me a really long time to realize, is like, it's not successful only when I'm super turned on. Success is, there is some building and release of sensation of some sort. Yeah. So, I mean, my story evolved even further than that, but I think that's kind of the most important part, especially for people who are starting on this journey of letting that evolve and peak. And the last thing I want to say, you did not ask me this, but again, speaking from deep experience, is a lot of the time this shit you don't just do once. It's not like, okay, I did it once, I felt it, I'm done. Very often these bigger things you come back to, and it's like they shift in layers, they'll release in layers, or they'll evolve, and you'll get to have different relationships with different parts of yourself. I don't know if you guys have had those experiences, but that's my experience.
Yes, absolutely. Like, it comes in different angles and different textures. If I frame it a little bit differently in my mind, it hits a different note. And absolutely, absolutely, I know what you're talking about. And just for anybody who's kind of new to this, when you feel these sensations, when you actually let yourself feel the sensations, they can kind of wash over you. I think of it as a wave. The wave, we let the wave wash over us, and we can let it go. It dissipates the charge around those things, and that's how we're able to release them. It lets the sort of pattern, whatever the sort of knot in our psyche, is able to move through when we allow the wave of sensation to come over us. And sometimes there are many waves that will come over us. And I always say, people always ask this, a very common question: how do I know when I'm done EKing something? And I will usually say, it's like when you can't find the charge anymore, like when when there's not a big sensation there for you to work with, then you've probably moved it, or try thinking about it in a different way. Holly, I would love to hear about what your EK practice looks like these days, or how it's evolved.
Yeah, it's, for me, like Dani says, the embodiment piece is the most important piece. Keeping it in my head and thinking about it is lovely, but also like getting into my body and actually feeling what's alive. And I will actually let my body decide what's coming up. Like I'll like do a body scan like Dani does, or dance, listen to music, and then get quiet and still and be like, okay, what am I feeling? What am I constricting around? What am I holding? And then from there, go through layers of it. Like, okay, so I'm feeling this sensation, and what is the story that is with this? What story am I telling myself? What is feeding the sensation? And then play with it from there. And for me, like, and I love how Dani's speaking to the get off isn't a one-time thing, because I think that's a big hang up that people have. It's like, oh, I got off, I'm over this. And that's that's not how it works. And we get more fodder. Like, that means we get to play with things more. And so I'll come back to things over and over and over again, like old stories. And I like to play with it from also from the trauma perspective of like, what is this thing that exists in my body that has been stuck here for so long, and how can I feel what it's giving me and come at that feeling with love? How can I come to this with, even though it's like, it's big and it's painful and I don't like it, how can I sit with it in joy And like what Laila was speaking to also, like we can tend to use somatics too as an attempt to press down a feeling so we don't have to feel it, right? Like using like wrapping somatics around a thing and then not actually having the feelings, and instead like taking this perspective of like, yeah, this big thing is coming and I'm not going to stop it. I'm not going to use my love to stop it, because we can do that too. I can use my joy to stop a feeling, and instead letting myself be with it in little, sometimes it's just little tiny bits. I'm a big believer in titration. How much of this can I sit with today? How much can I have? How much can I do? And sometimes it's not very much, and sometimes it's a whole lot. So it varies a lot from day to day. And yeah, it gives us an opportunity to really treat it with playfulness. And I think that has been the most helpful piece for me, is like being playful with myself. And I used to have this idea too, like that if I wasn't feeling it in my pussy, it wasn't real. Like this wasn't EK. And letting myself laugh about things or dance about things, or not have get off have to be about physical erotic charge, has been the beauty of it, because then that also opens up into it. Not having gripping around what a thing is supposed to be has really helped me immensely. The should and releasing that has really helped me to deepen into a practice where sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that was kind of kinky. My body will go through a process and be like, oh yeah, that was an EK practice. It's like it almost takes me through without me having to do it, which is really interesting to bring that awareness to it then too. It's like, oh yeah, here we go. It's my body being in process.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said about the titrating. I also will kind of be like, okay, how much of this am I willing to feel right now? And I'll say, and then I'll try to kind of get to a point where I feel like, okay, this is it. And then I'll say, but I do give myself permission to feel more, and I'm kind of checking in. Can I handle more? I can handle more right now. I can feel more right now. I'm like an intense person though. So I like to go hard, but I'm curious though, Holly, you said something about how you can use your joy and use love and use these different things to kind of shut down sensations. And I'm curious if you'd be willing to elaborate on what you mean by that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of that spiritual bypass where it's like, I can be so determined to enjoy, like, this feels good. I can find the joy in this, instead of first letting myself feel the pain of it, the heartbreak, the irritation. And I can have a tendency to skip over, like to use the fact that I know that I can get to joy, to not actually feel the intense pain first. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is a crucial step, to feel it exactly as it is, and then give it permission, and then kind of give ourselves permission to enjoy that. And I mean, for me, in my experience, like that's how it shifts. And I think that I think that EK has shown me that there's a huge difference. And I talk about this all the time, between pain and suffering, right? Because sometimes my pain, it feels good. It's not, and that's what EK teaches us. Like the practice of EK, doing this practice it's like we're training ourselves to actually decouple pain and suffering, because the suffering comes from the resistance. And EK is, on some level, it's just shedding the resistance. It's just choosing to let go of the resistance and just feel what is actually there. And then there's kind of this extra step of giving it permission to feel good, and like seeking the pleasure in it. But before we can seek the pleasure, we have to kind of relinquish the judgment of the story, so that we can feel the sensation as sensation. And that pain then, yeah, I mean, that's what kink is, right? It's feeling pain as pleasure.
Well, yeah. And I mean, part of what kink is, and part of why I think the kink framework is so helpful and so true, and just, gives you a right good spanking, is that when we are in a kink situation, we are playing with a not true identity. We are playing with a construct. We're acting. We're in a scene, right? We're in a scene. And on the existential level, we are always in a scene, samsara is a dream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. We are just seeing reflections of our own psyche. The us that we really are is not the character in the dream. And existential kink helps us to remember that we are the completely incorruptible, unharmable, totally safe witness of the drama. And and if that sounds like sick or weird, or you have some objection to that, I just want to say, it's okay, honey. We can admit to ourselves how much we love doing this. I was just on the phone with my sisters this morning, and my sister was telling me about this apocalyptic sci-fi that she was reading that contained just horror upon horror, and she read it cover to cover. You know what I mean? We don't put that book down. Are you joking? We do not put the apocalyptic horror novel down. We're like, when can I get back? When will nap time come again? When can I put the kids to bed so I can continue devouring another chapter of the apocalyptic horror novel that I'm reading? And that is what we're all doing on a spiritual level, in our most tender moments as well. I don't want to put down the Hallmark movie moment of my life. They don't come that often. So let me just be present to it, and having that change in perspective does not bring us to apathy. It brings us to even deeper and deeper engagement, because when we remember how completely safe our real and true being actually is, then we can participate with just total fearlessness in whatever is happening.
Hell yeah, Layla. And I want to take a piece of that and take it back to this concept of kink too, and this EK practice. Again, I feel like I've said this another time, but there's something so beautiful about having a container, right? And that this being the training wheels and the place that we start from. Because in kink, the most important thing is actually having the parameters set, having the negotiation, the rules, the agreements set, because that container creates the safety and to allow those individuals to go into free, expressive play, to go into the depths of the intensity of what they're trying to experience that they don't feel that they can experience in their daily life, right? And that is also what this process provides, is that safety to start to play with those parts that feel scary and edgy and uncomfortable. And for some of us, that's I'm a gossipy bitch. And for some of us, that's oh, people really want to love me and see value in me and those sorts of things, So those containers are so important for us to feel safe to start to play with all of these edges. And without that, it's it's just abuse, let's be honest.
Yes. Dani, I really am glad that you brought up the horrific, evil assault of people trying to love you. I'm so glad you brought up the horror that is. I feel like we could do a whole episode on all of the things that people say that they want, but are just secretly so upset by, just disgusted and horrified by.
100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% understand, and I'm really glad that you're here, Dani, to bring in the boundary and containment and the awareness of the need for consent, because I know that my consciousness can get very big around this topic and be like, hey, listen, nobody's ever harmed anyone and we're all fine and everyone's fine and you are eternal and you can never be corrupted. And while that is also true,
100%.
as human beings, we also can definitely be harmed.
Yeah, it's just what level are we speaking on? I totally agree. Spiritually, I'm on board and 100%. And having tried to start from that framework, that is
Totally.
how I did a lot of really beautiful bypassing and
Yes.
continuing to like denigrate, control, and dominate myself.
Word.
So yeah.
Yeah, if you're prone to self-domination, I mean, we all are a little bit, but yeah, it can come in many packages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just discernment. We all have to have discernment for our own process, always, with everything that we do. Yeah, like Carolyn Elliott wrote this book, Existential Kink, and she just like put it out into the world, and it's big stuff. Like it's really
It's
big
a
stuff.
potent book. It's a big medicine. It's a big medicine that is full of healing, and also, like many other medicines, must be applied, with care and appropriately.
Yeah, that reminds me, at one point, Laila, we were talking and you were talking about how, oh God, right, like actual kink, EK needs aftercare.
Yes, we do need aftercare.
Like, I'm really curious what aftercare looks like for all of you.
I mean, to me, aftercare in an existential kink way, to me, definitely feels like, the part of me that's like, if I do something hugely embarrassing and I've managed to get off on it, then I'm like, oh, you did a good job there, sweetheart. Like you went through a tough experience, because like as much as we would like to imagine that any progress in self-development and self-understanding would lead us to a perfect and stress-free life, we all are now adults and realize that that's not going to happen. Like tough experiences happen, and fortunately we can have the tools to deal with them wisely, and yeah, like ride the wave as smoothly as possible through what is going on so as not to create more turbulence. But we never live an undisturbed life. And so to me, part of aftercare is being like, yes, I got through a scary thing. Like I did a big scene and I was a brave girl and I played my part and I like showed up and enjoyed it. And also now it's over. And so I get to be like, wow, take it easy on yourself. That was a big performance. That was a big one. You really good job. You could have freaked out. You didn't freak out, but we still get to acknowledge that wasn't nothing. Like be tender with yourself. To me, that is part of the aftercare of the existential kink of life. you know?
Yeah, I'll second that. I think that's a really important piece of aftercare. And I think also there's something to be said for like getting into community and having conversations with people about what your experience is, right? Like we'll talk with each other about like what's happening and like fuck, or we'll like ask questions or like share our own experience with each other. And so it helps to create that sense of connection outside of your body that can be really, really helpful. I find that to be one of the things that sometimes will help me settle as well.
Nice, Holly. I love that. And that really reminds me of I did a local eClay book club for a bit, and the people who came, every single person, the one thing that they really shared was, I needed community when I read this book because it was such a shift in consciousness, in a worldview for me, that I actually needed other people to relate to. so that I wouldn't feel isolated and alone in this like big change that's happening for me. So thank you for like, fuck yeah, Holly, way to bring that piece in.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is actually, I should say that was part of the impetus for us creating this podcast, because we are creating a community, and there will be more coming out on that soon. But we are putting together a community, and each of us will be in there, and Holly's going to be doing monthly somatic work with people. Dani's going to be doing coaching and holding turn-on calls. Laila and I will be doing coffee chats, and it will transition in what the community actually looks like. But we are creating a space for people to come together and, yeah, just kind of like be in this work together, because it's so important and so crucial. And is there anything else that anyone wants to share before we close this winning introductory podcast episode?
I'm just really glad to be here with you guys and to get to talk about this. And I hope that anybody listening who has any questions that came up during the podcast will, type them in a comment so that we can be in engagement with you, because it's just really important to me that we answer questions and, give support to people who have been working in, with shadow work, either from a Jungian framework or from the existential kink framework, or just, stumbled upon it on your own, or any other framework that I might be unaware of, that this content seems helpful. I would just really love to be in conversation with you all.
100% agree.
Same.
Amazing. Amazing. So what we're saying is we want to hear from you, dear listener, and we have many more podcasts to come. And in future episodes, there will be more of the four of us. There will be some with just some of us. We're going to be just kind of mixing it up. And we're going to be interviewing people who have been trained in existential kink coaching. Many of these people have been trained by me and Laila. And hopefully we'll also interview people who haven't been trained in existential kink coaching, and we'll be able to get their perspectives on things, because we're getting into the weeds here, and there's just so much good, juicy conversations coming in this podcast. So I hope that you will stick around and listen. We'll be putting episodes out every Friday. So we'll see you next Friday. Thank you so much for watching.